Alright, what am I doing? Same day that I did the podcast with Nino. I also just realized that I have one less day than I thought I had for me to go away guiding for a few days. It's non-stop, I'll tell you what. Something always happens that makes me go into panic mode. This whole past month has just been nothing but grind. So, I think right now, because I have to go pick up the young lady from her first job at 9:30 tonight. So I got a little bit of time, in a way, right now. I'm going to share some voices, alright? I'm going to share some voices. I can't stand not wasting any time. If I got some time to sit on my ass, I got some time to do this, because it's sitting on my ass while I do it, right? Now, this is titled, I Am an RN from San Francisco. Hi Steve, my name is Cheryl Timmons. I'm an RN from San Francisco. Retired RN now, or at least trying to be retired. It's hard to stay that way with the world in such a mess. You keep getting suckered in. I really respect what you're doing, revealing very important information to the normal people of the world, and that's why I'm writing. I'd like to offer my help with the reading because it sounds like you're bomb-blasted with emails to read. I would do it with your message of F those buttholes covering this up. My baby brother saw Bigfoot when we were 15 and 18. My stepfather was driving down the road after they closed down our French restaurant in the middle of nowhere between cities in eastern Nebraska. They both saw Bigfoot running across the road. Back then in '78, no one laughed or questioned their sighting. I've hated going into the woods my whole life because the woods I used to go into in the Ozarks just creeped me out. The woods by our cabin was probably full of Sasquatch. I love the outdoors, but at the beach, not the woods. I live in the Bay Area and have had several weird experiences, including losing 3 days and waking up with no shoes, walking down the street. That's really alarming. That's really alarming. Anyway, I can relate to you and would set up a Steve's Assistant channel to get more stories out there. Let me know if that sounds cool and give me a call. I'm always the one making public stuff that people want to kick under the rug anyway. LOL. I could have enjoyed more time by myself in the woods if I hadn't been scared out of them. I had a great 35 years working at the San Francisco General and would like to continue helping people by educating them to how no good and worthless our governments really are. Cheryl Timmons. P.S. You can find me on Facebook too. Alright, appreciate you, Cheryl. Got a lot of offers of help and I absolutely appreciate all of them. And we'll figure something out soon, as soon as I can. As soon as I take my time out to figure out how I could utilize somebody else to do this, I will do it and I'll definitely get a hold of you. Thank you. Childhood experience? Question mark. Hey Steve, I've been watching your videos for a few months, as my roommate is a regular viewer, and we usually watch your videos together. I'm living in Washington now for the last few years, but was born and raised in Pennsylvania. I don't talk about this experience I'm about to share with anyone because it was too weird to explain, and I don't have friends or family who would understand me or would think I'm imagining weird stuff. I don't know if this was an experience, but it's something even at the age of 27 I've been able to explain. When I was about 9 or 10 years old, I had an uncle living in a heavily wooded area of Pennsylvania. My mother and he were somewhat close at the time, and he was one of the relatives I went to visit the most. I grew up very shy and introverted, but when it came down to it, I'd rather try to have fun with a few kids than sit in a room with a bunch of adults. So when my mom and I arrived, I went off with a group of kids there. They were neighbors. They were all boys ranging 8 to 12. I decided going out into the woods would be fun. I'm not rugged, but aside from spiders and snakes, I'm not scared to spend time outdoors. About 10 minutes into through this trail, about 10 minutes into going through this trail, I'm guessing you meant, I remember having a weird sensation that something strange was going to happen. It was quiet. Aside from the kids, and I remember looking around thinking something was watching us. Eventually I looked and realized all the kids I was with were gone. I couldn't see or hear where they went. A few seconds upon realization I was alone, I heard this strange and extremely loud booming roar. I've never heard a sound like it, but it was so distinct that I knew I had to run when I heard it. I was so scared and disoriented, I almost couldn't find my uncle's house running back. I tried to tell my mom what happened, but the look on her face said it all. I wasn't a kid that lied or did things for attention, but she clearly figured my imagination was running wild. She brushed me off, and I never felt comfortable talking about it again. My mom was my biggest supporter, and over the years, and after an anxiety depression diagnosis in my teens, I figured I was just experiencing my first physical bout of anxiety. Maybe I didn't experience something, but maybe you'd know better than I would. Sorry I don't have more info, but it's been about 16 to 17 years since it happened. I don't want to make things uncomfortable for my friends and family, so I don't want to reveal the location, and you can refer to me by my initials, LH. Thanks, Steve, for reading, even if it doesn't make a video, and keep making your content. And I will. And I appreciate you writing in. I hope you didn't leave your name on the front. You didn't. I'm sorry to hear about your anxiety. It's such a common thing, anxiety today, isn't it? So many people are suffering from anxiety, depression. It's amazing. And everybody's medicated. Are the two related? Are the medicated, or the medication producers have something to do with this? What's causing this anxiety, depression to go so rampant? It's upsetting to witness, and I see it firsthand myself all the time. It's very, very unfortunate. I wish I had a recipe to help people with it. I really do. It's very frustrating. Anyway, you're safe here. You found your people. It's a safe place to share. All right? And I will not stop. I will not stop creating the content. There's no worries there. Appreciate your kind words. Now, all right, who's next? What do we got next? It's the right phone. Oop, wrong phone. And a fly made it in here. No, I don't feel like chasing it around. This is titled My Predator Story. Mark this as red. By the way, Steve, I have a PhD in environmental engineering, and I work for a large theme park in Central Florida. So, I'm a scientist and a highly rational person. Just thought I'd mention that. Thanks, Kate. Gotcha, Kate. Hi, Steve. I've really been enjoying your YouTube channel. The viewer content is always fascinating to listen to. I want to share my story with you. My story begins when I was at my sister and brother-in-law's house a few weeks ago for my younger nephew's birthday party. There were loads of cousins and my nephew's friends there, and my sister-in-law had made up gift bags for the little kids. One of the items in the gift bags was one of those metal clicker things that was shaped like a different colored bugs, and when you pressed on the center of the bug's body, the toy made a clicking noise. As the kids unpacked their bags, several of them started to click these toys rapidly, and then, all of a sudden, I was reminded of a memory from my own childhood, one I had apparently stored in the back of my mind, as if I had done so on purpose. When I was about 7, my younger brother and I always tried to keep up with our older brothers and their friends. I was quite the tomboy, determined to keep up no matter what. So, one Saturday in February, my younger brother Liam and I were determined to find our brothers who had gone one street over from our street to play in a forest. There was really more like a few acres of pine and palmetto trees. There were trails that went through this area, and we ran and played to our heart's content. Liam, who was about 6, and I could hear my brothers whooping and hollering and laughing like boys will do. So we ran into the woods and proceeded to try to find them. We could hear them deeper in the forest, so Liam and I kept plodding along the little winding paths. At one point, I distinctly remember the forest going dead silent. It was kind of like being in a vacuum. Even the giggling and guffawing of our brothers and their friends seemed to cease. I remember thinking that was kind of odd, but hey, I'm a kid, so I didn't think much about it. But then I heard a clicking noise. I stopped talking to Liam so I could listen better. This is back in about 1975, and the Predator movies had not come out yet. Not that I would have been allowed to see them anyway. So I listened intently and realized that the clicking noise was coming from above us. I motioned to Liam to look up, and we did, and didn't see much of anything. At least not at first. Like I mentioned earlier, this was in February. I remember it was February because my mom had given me these cute little red gloves for Valentine's Day, and I was wearing them as it was so cold outside. And even though we lived in Florida, it was one of those rare days we actually get in January, February in Florida. You know, one of our 3 days of winter. So I kept looking up and realized there was something up there. I could see the vague outline of what seemed to be a humanoid up high in the tree just next to us. It was just standing there on a branch, way high up in the tree. It seemed to be unnaturally high up. And I say I could see it, but it was like it was being hidden by something. Like when it rains on a hot summer day and the steam comes up off the blacktop of the highway, like a curtain camouflage obscuring what was actually up there. But that didn't make sense. Since it was so cold outside, we could see our breath. I told Liam we should go back out to the street and get out of the woods for now, so we did. As we got out to the road, we walked down a little way to see if we could catch up with our brothers, and I still felt very uneasy. I glanced back behind us as we walked, and I was shocked to see the strange, quote, cloaked, end quote, human figure was walking behind us on the road, coming up fast upon us. I grabbed Liam's little hand and took off running to find my big brother Joseph and hollered for him as I ran. I came running out of the woods with our 4 other brothers and their friends. I hollered at him saying we needed to get home. He didn't seem to understand the urgency of the situation. I mean, why would he? He began to argue with me, but before I could tell him what the matter was, one of our mothers of the other boys came out of the house at the end of the street we were on and told us we all had to come into the house. She seemed to know we needed to get out of those woods ASAP. I don't know how she knew, but she just did. She allowed my 5 brothers, their 4 friends, and me into her house, no questions asked. So we ran into her home and she gave us hot chocolate and sugar cookies and allowed us to watch cartoons all afternoon. I never knew how she understood that there was something out there that was unnatural, if she understood at all, but I was thankful she did. If she did know about the thing behind us, she never mentioned it. Maybe she just had a feeling that we were in danger. I know I felt it was an existential threat. At the end of the afternoon, she walked us home and we thanked her for a great day. No. Alright. Big interruption yesterday. Panic stations yesterday. And I didn't complete what I started. So I'm going to complete that this morning. And then I have to pack my stuff and get out of here. A day earlier than I thought. Now, after talking to Afghanistan yesterday, you know, I did a quick little search in one of my folders and I found another one. It needs to be shared. Now listen to this. Steve, let me start by saying I love your stories. I stumbled across your YouTube channel while checking out bear stories on my lunch break. I'm an avid hunter and fly fisherman, so your content is right up my alley. Now to the good stuff. I've never had an encounter with a Bigfoot, or can't even say I would like to have one here in the States. But I did have a very strange and unusual story of something we saw in Afghanistan. In 2009, I was part of a small unit heading into the southernmost part of Helmand province in Afghanistan. Our primary mission was to curtail the flow of weapons coming across the border from Pakistan. To accomplish this mission, we had some DEA guys with us as we were attempting to slow the heroin flow from Afghanistan into Pakistan. That's kind of funny, eh? You can't even stop the flow into the southern border of the United States. What are they going to do in Pakistan and Afghanistan? The Taliban will use the profits from the heroin sales to purchase millions of dollars of munitions in Pakistan to fight the coalition in Afghanistan. You get the point. Anyway, we were on day 7 of a patrol outside the wire looking for some bad guys in an area near the Helmand River. There are lots of caves in that area and ruins dating back forever. Just an incredible, extremely wild place. One August evening, a buddy and myself were on watch just shooting the shit, talking about what our first meal will be when we get back to the States. I look up the side of a cliff face and see movement coming from my left to my right, downhill towards the river basin. I pull up my rifle and look through my ACOG and see a red-haired large figure headed down towards a group of goats. By this time, my buddy also has his rifle shouldered and is seeing the same thing I'm seeing. It was the color of an orangutan, but was moving on two legs extremely quickly. It probably covered 100 meters in around 9 to 10 seconds. And we're talking across some pretty rough country. It was also larger than a man, though I really couldn't tell you how large. It seemed as if the goats were aware of its presence, but did not make an attempt to move away. They all just stood there in silence, staring at the thing coming down the embankment. When he reached the goats, he reached down with one arm and pulled one up by its front legs and threw it over his shoulder. He then moved to another goat, picked that one up, and threw it over the other shoulder. He then turned and started back up the cliffside with both goats in tow and seemed to be moving just as quickly as he was when he came down. The extra weight of the 50-pound goats on each shoulder not seeming to hinder him in the least. We watched him until he reached an area of known caves and disappeared. This all happened about 500 yards from our position. My buddy and I both looked at each other, and you could tell we were thinking the same thing. What the hell was that? At the end of the deployment, I went in and talked to one of the environmental health guys and told him the story. Those guys are supposed to be experts on all the critters and such you may encounter when you're in the country, but he seemed to not have an answer for me. And anyway, to this day, I still have no idea what that thing was. It certainly was not a man. Thanks, Steve. Stay safe out there, Rex. There you go, Afghanistan. What an interesting, crazy place that country must be, right? All those mountains and all those mysteries and all that history. It's just too bad everybody is upside down, filled with hate and war, because that is the place that I would absolutely, I'd go. I would love to go, throw on the gear, find somebody with the same mindset from that country, and then dive into those mountains and go explore. That would be absolutely mind-bending for me. Just the mountains, the mysteries, the mountains. Mountains are powerful. If you haven't been in true big mountains, there's something about mountains. It's just big, big medicine. It really is. It'd be so bizarre just to sit there and speak with someone whose family tree goes back so far, right? The history, the generations would be absolutely ridiculous. You know, especially compared to our country here, where we live. What are we, 250 years old or something? That's it. It's nothing. That is nothing. I've heard a few people comment in the past speculating that possibly the Afghan thing was more of a spiritual war going on there, something else going on there than just looking for bad guys, right? Because the bad guys are all over the planet. Why Afghanistan? Why would Russia be there for so long? And then next thing you know, then the states go up to bat and they stay there for 20 years. Something else is going on there. Something really weird is going on there. I've had a few people email in about the red-headed giant that was allegedly slain by U.S. servicemen after it killed one or two U.S. servicemen and flown out. And there sure seems to be a lot of... I mean, you can't just pull stories like this. You got to think about it. You can't just all of a sudden somebody wakes up in the morning. I know what I'm going to flood the internet with. I'm going to pretend that the U.S. military hammered a red-headed giant with 6 toes and 6 fingers and flew it out in a big helicopter. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do today, because that's kind of fun, said nobody. But I have had a few people email me in. I think I have somebody who said they were first-hand witness or second-hand, which means they were there while on deployment and knew someone who saw. I think I had somebody email me in that they saw this red-headed giant or another one. They got dummied by the military, but this face was basically unrecognizable because of the beating it took from the guns. And they said it was loaded up and flown to Germany. So, anybody got anything they want to add to that or correct me on, or if they're there firsthand or know somebody they trust with their life who was and shared with them, maybe it's time to get that out to the public and share us what actually really truly went down so we can help connect some dots, right? Why do we need to know? Because we are equal human beings on the face of the planet. We deserve to be equal and have equal knowledge. That's why. That's why we're not just the worker bees. I wish we weren't. I like to think we're not just the worker bees that stay in line. We deserve to have that knowledge, and I want it. I want to share it. Anyway, who else do we got? That's a crazy story, man. There's a lot has gone down in that country and been shared here. Now, what else is in here? Y12 nuclear plant, Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Steve, my name is Stephen Burris. I feel like I need to share the knowledge. First off, thanks for having a safe place for people to share. So here I go. It was a hot summer day, 2016. I was hunting ginseng close to the nuclear site. I've been having good luck all day, so I spent most of the day on my knees digging. About 20 minutes till dark, I decided to leave, and that's when I heard the loudest scream/yelling I've ever heard in my life. Steve, we have black panthers here in New River, and Oak Ridge also have bears, mountain lions, and massive hog problems, but nothing I've ever heard or seen can compare to this yell I felt in my soul. I tried to run, but I couldn't move. It's like I was in shock. Like I had just been through a shooting or a bad wreck and I was stunned. I finally made it back to my car, only to be greeted by soldiers with machine guns. They were chasing something and they thought it was me. They quickly realized I was not as big as what they were after. Steve, my family is from the big mountains. We can walk into Kentucky from Tennessee. Been in the woods since I was 3. Cherokee/Irish. I've been aware and taught about the Sabe or hairy people. My family stories passed down were always leave them alone. They won't bother you. But the bad ones live alone and will take our women and children. Steve, my uncle Jose is dead now, but he ran the security at Y12 and he said they killed 3 or 4 every year trying to get into the plant. Interesting. The old timers used to tell us about the time one of the Sabe came into the holler and tried to snatch up a woman. And they shot it 6 times. And it just stood there, grabbed the girl, and left. That would be a really shitty, helpless feeling to experience that. Real shitty. Never seen her again. And every week, a boulder or a tree would crash through the cabin at night. And this went on for a year until they finally moved. Steve, I was hunting ginseng on 8/2/21 in the New River, probably 5 miles from any road or anything. I was doing good, and then I just had this overwhelming fear come over me like somebody is watching me. I got up, loomed around, and out of nowhere, this head pops up from around this huge maple tree, just staring right at me. I literally pissed my pants right there. I was frozen with fear. I ran almost like I was in slow motion to the car as fast as I could. It was running behind me. Steve, it was throwing rocks in trees and breaking. I swear, I've never been that scared in my life. Steve, I've been shot at and shot. Steve, thanks for all you do. You changed my life, and now I go back into the woods. You do. Wow, man. You go back in the woods after all that. And especially those stories being handed down. And especially the story of a human being being taken, never seen again, and they shot the shit out of it and just stood there and looked at him. And you've been chased, and you still go in the woods. Bravo, man. Wow. That's something to overcome. I wonder, you know, I've had some very solid sources tell me flat out that yes, absolutely, there are groups of human beings seeking out and killing this description of being, right? So that means, and then you get some of our listeners, like this man writes in what his family knows. I've had a lot of people write in about these beings being pursued by military groups. That means, if it's all true, that means there is a fair amount of human beings out today, alive and active today, that know, and that have been partaking in this, and they know. And what are the chances of them being on this channel? Pretty good, right? Now, if these people who do pursue these beings and kill them are listening, I'm going to send you out just a quick little message. Why is it that it is so important we do not know the truth? Why is it? And how the hell is it that they can keep your mouth shut? I wonder how many, so many people out there that may be involved in this. I don't understand the power of the persuasion to keep their mouths shut. Like, how could you do it? I don't understand. I really like to know the recipe that whoever's in charge, the recipe they use to intimidate people to do what they want and not do what they want, do what they don't want them to do. That recipe must be so overpowering, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like I mentioned that with people who are in government today too. What would it take to make you do these dirty, filthy things they've been doing to the innocent, good people, like super good people? What is it? I like not to think that people are just born with evil in them, surging through their veins. I like to think that that's not the case, because it's hard to imagine. I mean, we've all had what we could consider buttholes we grew up with as kids, but most kids were little assholes anyway. I don't think I really ran across too many kids growing up that were truly evil. Actually, no, I've never ran into a kid that was truly evil ever. So, how does the adult population, some of the adult population, get that dark and evil? How do they get to that place, right? How do you get there? And how do you intimidate people into keeping their mouths shut so successfully? It's really bizarre, isn't it? I want to know. I want to know. Because if we know, then we can turn it around, right? Then we come up with a recipe that is the antidote to that dark recipe. Turn it around. Babbling. Babbling, babbling. Alright, here we go. Here's another one. Did a little search in my notes with Afghanistan included. Here we go. This is titled Nuclear Site Bigfoot. Good morning, Steve. I've emailed you in the past with my experience. But as a Marine back in 2008-2012, my best friend was stationed in Washington State guarding nuclear subs. I'm now in the process of getting him to come forward about what he knows. Your most recent video saying, quote, "You paid our salary and paid our way," end quote. You are right, and I'll do my best to reach out to my military buddies who were Marine security forces who guarded nuclear sites and who may have first-hand knowledge. I've told him about my experience, the one I emailed you a few months previous. You 2 months ago probably got buried in your email. This particular buddy acknowledged Sasquatch was real. It wasn't until I seen your video about nuclear sites did I realize my buddies might know more than they let on. I'll reach out to them and see what I can do to get them to reach out to you. After all, we're all in this together, and hopefully I can convince them of this. Stay strong, and I'll share your email with my buddies. Hopefully they do the right thing. I don't know if I've read that before or not. It sounds a little familiar, and I hope this person's still here, and I'm hoping you're successful. And if they haven't got around to it, give them a little nudge. Or if they are listening, come on you guys, spill it. Spill it with the people, man. You're one of us. Originally. Hopefully you still are one of us. Here's an original email from the original emailer. Tacked on. Good day, Steve. I wrote you before, but realized my email might have been kind of vague. My name is Paul Perry. I'm 31 from Massachusetts. I grew up an avid outdoorsman, fishing, hunting, camping, etc. To give you a little background, in 2008,
I left for the Marines when I was 18 and the war on terror was in full swing. After 2 deployments and a Purple Heart, I came home to wounds sustained in Afghanistan. I couldn't re-enlist. So in January 2012, I moved back home. I instantly jumped back into the outdoors like life and rekindling a relationship I had prior to leaving. I started hiking with my now wife of 13 years. Steve, fighting insurgents, getting into firefights with other humans who are as cunning and witty as you, hunting each other is a thrill like no other. I've heard that a lot. I'm not a psycho. I just feel to cope with war, you do what you got to do. My way of coping was laughing and trying to remove the human aspect as much as possible. Sounds harsh, but my survival depended on quick reaction and no hesitation. So, laughing as a J-dam fell from a jet blowing up an insurgent stronghold is just the way it is. I think we've shared this, but I'm doing it again. Now that you know all about my experience, all about me, my experience was the late summer 2013. I took my wife hiking at Old Civil War Fort. It has some decent beginner trails marked with color markers on the trees. We started out late in the afternoon, so it got dark quick. As the darkness fell, we got lost, almost circling the same areas. This is where my experience is different than most. There was no crunching, no tree snaps. There was silence. Stevie, I don't even know what made me look other than the sixth sense, but I looked through the moonlit trees and seen the silhouette of a giant figure running through the trees. Steve, I've been shot. I know what it's like to accept death and have a mindset that I'm going to die. This trumped that tenfold. This figure could have been more than 75 yards, which means I should have heard it. As a Marine, I'm trained to shoot 500-yard iron sights, and I have a good judge of yardage. This was close to 60 to 75 yards and paralleling us. I drew my sidearm, grabbed my wife from the back of her neck and pushed her through prickle bushes and made our own path until I seen light on a house and came out. So it's typos. And came out in someone's backyard. Firearm still drawn. I didn't feel safe until I was on the pavement of a street, well lit up by street lights. Thankfully she's seen what I've seen, but I can't explain it. 7 to 8 feet tall being running, clearing distance no man could clear in such short time. What was creepy was there was a silence over the woods, including that being running. That day scared the shit out of me. I would redeploy to Afghanistan twice over rather than see what I saw that day. Have you ever heard of these things, of these beings having encounters where it was silence? It's been 9 years, and that replays in my head daily, almost trying to figure out what the F I've seen. Okay, it's kind of coincidental we read this after talking to Nino yesterday and trying to explain about the veterans writing in and having that feeling, right? Of absolute terror. And I'm certain this man, I'm certain you've been here long enough, you've heard countless people talk about the silence numerous times, right? Numerous times. So yeah, it's definitely a huge pattern. So like what, I can't wait to get down, I can't wait to take this to the next level of knowledge, right? It's right there, it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time, me getting done with my commitments that I've committed to here. And it's always with other people, right? I just commit to helping other people here and committing to, I'm doing a 3-day second boat guide trip with 8 people for a friend of mine. I got some other commitments. I've promised another friend of mine, new hunter, I'd help him get an elk. And I'm committed, you know what I mean? I can't change plans, what I'm saying. My brain's just, my lips and my mind don't mesh up smooth sometimes. What I'm saying is my following month is spoken for, and I can't switch the plans, but I can't wait to cut loose and fly out of here and fly south and gain the knowledge that we are all looking for and get some very serious puzzle pieces put in place, and as well share what I can with all you, right? So that you can advance, learn more, hopefully have a better life. If you're struggling right now with some experiences you've had, and you're confused and frustrated, etc. Listen to me babble. No more babbling. I'm kind of, it's my first coffee. And the brain's racing. I've got so many things to do, as usual. That's a broken record saying that sentence, right? Let's get somebody else heard. All right. Now I know why I'm into a lot of these military emails, because I actually made a folder in here for military, and it's loaded. And that's where I'm sitting right now looking. Now listen to this. Have this been shared previously? I don't know. We're going to find out. UK military experience and a rant. Not that mine aren't enough, right? Steve, I'm on your wavelength and I feel your frustrations with several issues, including the drip feeding of so much BS from our nation's politicians. I have a strange experience to share, and then if I may descend into a bit of a rant. I've never told anyone about this, and it's only since I've come across your channel that I feel comfortable doing so. I served 23 years in the Royal Marines and left in 2011. During that time, I served in various places, including Bosnia, Iraq, Afghanistan, twice in 2006 and 2009. Saw some real shitty things, but that's another story. I've never heard her howl before. That was kind of funny. My experience was back in 1996. There was a huge joint UK/US training exercise on the east coast of the US. We were based out of Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. We began the training exercise with a big amphibious landing on Onslow Beach, then gradually moved inland. It was a few nights into the exercise, and there was a number of us moving somewhere on foot for most of the night. When we went to ground and were stationary for a while, I was sat on a sandy bank. Okay, I was sitting on a sandy bank which rose up behind me to an area of scrubland covered in low bushes which were at about my shoulder height. As I was sitting there, I remember smelling something quite strong, like a sulfurous, pungent smell. I put it down to me smelling myself, as we'd been out in the field for a few days, and then I remember looking over my right shoulder, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw something extremely large, only 10 feet behind me, quickly move away, which startled me. I rose up to my knees and turned around, only to see another one run away from behind where I was kneeling. I have no idea what I saw, but they appeared white or light colored. I only saw them from the back as they ran away. They looked very big, and at the time, immediately reminded me of something like a huge square man. But it's the way they moved that creeped me out, and I can't really explain it by writing. Whatever they were both the same type of thing. I didn't see any other features, as it was dark and probably about 0100. They were both big and fast. Shortly after this, we got the signal to move off, so we were in a different area by daylight. There were other people in the vicinity, but I don't think anyone else saw anything, and I didn't say anything to anyone, and never have. So bizarre, right? I don't think I'll ever get over that part of people not saying anything. It just blows me away how common that is, and especially when you're in that scenario. You got a guy in the military, you got all your brothers in arms right around you, but it's so overpowering, you can't share it with them. Is that bizarre? And fast to be people, and how they moved was too weird. That's the thing that's creepy, is how they moved to anyone, as I wouldn't know really where to start. I've done so much digging, but I can't really find anything similar to relate it to. Anyway, as promised, there is a bit of a rant to follow. I've been all over Steve and seen some real awful shit, but my real concern is what the hell in the UK. There is so much I could cover, but For time's sake, I'll present my ramblings in short bullet, prosecuted for events that happened 50 years ago, whilst IRA terrorists walk our streets free of persecution. Migrant crisis. Most of them have traveled all the way from Syria to get to the UK, yet the French Navy escort hundreds of small inflatable rafts into our waters every month, only to be greeted by the UK. Only bad things will come of this, Steve, and I know it will. And I no longer feel safe in the country I fought for. A generation of lazy, entitled brats that feel like the world owes them something. There are bad times ahead. Something bad is brewing. God help us all, Steve. I'm happy to follow up this email with a phone call if you need this, or maybe not have. Yeah, that part of it. That's the part I was talking about, the confidence the other day, right? They run in terror from us when we see them, but they have the confidence to sneak up within 10 feet. The military guys with weapons, right? I'm sure you didn't have any live rounds, but how'd they know that? Scared of human beings, terrified of human beings, avoid us at all costs, but sneak up to within 10 feet of somebody who's trained to kill in the dark. It's just so contradicting and stupid. It makes you dizzy. Then the migrant thing. You know, it's easy to use the bleeding heart card on the population and guilt people out. Well, if you would have been them in their country, you know what? It's the West that went and destroyed their countries. So, you know, it's to the point now, who is doing this and how, what is all of this mass global migration doing to benefit the people who want it to happen, right? Obviously, it's annihilating cultures in a way. Let me even saying this right, I should even just bite my lip because sometimes what I'm thinking doesn't come out smoothly, but people should stay home and make their homeland, their country, a better place. That's what they should be doing, right? They should be staying at home and making it a better place and not giving up and quitting. That's what they should be doing. And there is a lot of grief going on in different countries because of this. There's a lot of places you just can't go anymore because of the religious beliefs, and they'll beat the crap out of Western women walking alone with their faces shown. It's fact. It's true. It's crazy. It's crazy to watch. It's frustrating to watch. What do you do? This is a crazy lifetime. How it's going to pan out in the end, I don't know. I don't know, but some people are probably going to be shitting on me right now for saying it. Oh well, I get to speak. You get to speak too. I'm not going to stop you from saying your part, but I am a firm believer that you need to stay in your country and fight back and make it better. Right? Because if you are not going to, who is? You don't just quit and run. You don't quit. Nobody should quit. You make things better. Make things better. Don't frickin', yeah. Okay, let's get on to somebody else. I'll bite my lip. Who's next? Alright, here we go. This is titled, Bigfoot Being Chased by Military in Deep Woods, Tennessee. Hello, good sir. I'd like to share a story that happened to my family in Tennessee. One night, as we sat watching whatever TV the antenna could pick up through the hills, we started hearing a large ruckus coming from our side yard, which was just a small strip of property bordered by a larger creek. Whatever it was shook our shack we lived in as it ran across the yard. And my dad jumped up, grabbed his rifle, and went out to see what it was. He told us kids to go to the bathroom since it was in the middle of the house, but we could still hear my father and his wife talking outside through the thin walls. Mind you, my father was a backwoods Tennessee boy all his life and knows what is what when he sees it. My two sisters and I could hear them saying, "What the hell was that?" That was no man, that was huge. Us kids were thinking bear, since we occasionally had them in the area. Just a few minutes after hearing that from our parents, military trucks started coming down our driveway at a high speed. Several, not sure how many from the quick peek I got through the door, but enough to fill our front yard with vehicles. They started dismounting, and several started yelling at my dad and stepmom to take their epping asses into the house. that nothing was of concern, and they were just conducting night maneuvers from Campbell, Kentucky, even though some of them took out like, what? Even though some of them took out like bats out of hell towards the thing my folks saw running through the yard. Several stayed back and made sure we stayed in our house, basically surrounding it at gunpoint, mind you. This all happened around 1979, and I've sought the truth since, though people like you who have dedicated themselves to the subject. Sorry. This all happened around 1979, and I've sought the truth since, through people like you who have dedicated themselves to the subject. Thanks for the great content. Sincerely, Ken Johnson. Well, what do you say about that one? Right? Now it's like, so did this thing escape? Right? Did it escape its handlers? They're trying to round it up? Or what? How did they even know it was there? And how would you even, I don't even understand, how would you chase down something like that with vehicles to start off with? Right? I mean, all they got to do is run into the forest or the timber once in a split second, and now vehicles are impossible to use. There's so many crazy ass experiences coming our way, right? And you got to think, with a lot of them, it's just some of these are too short and too simple to even think up. Like, if I was to think up, if I was motivated to think up a BS story because I might get my weird jollies from hearing it read here, I'd think up something really good. You know what I mean? I mean, that's so vague and short and to the point of an experience. It's right away, I always think that with a lot of these emails coming in, like, why would I think that up? I could think up something way better, especially if I actually had the energy and the time I was going to donate to being a bullshitting psychopath. I'd think up something way more, I don't know, I'm babbling. So, military again, Tennessee is on fire, man. Camp Lejeune, what's up with that place? That place has been mentioned here so many times, it's mind-boggling. Camp Lejeune. There's a lot of people out there with a lot of knowledge that they're withholding. There's a lot of people. If you take all these tens of thousands of accounts in, there's so many people out there in our communities that are directly related to a lot of these experiences that are keeping their mouth shut. And I would seriously, I am very curious to know the recipe that it takes to intimidate all these people to keep their mouth shut. What is the recipe they used in you guys? How about that one? How about that? If any of you people are here watching, which I'm 100% convinced you are, if you are members of those groups of individuals who know, but you are keeping your lips sealed. Okay, I get it, keep your lips sealed, that's fine. But if you could, maybe you could at least email me the recipe they used on your ass so we can understand you better. Instead of just being frustrated wanting to call you names, I would like to understand the people that keep their lips shut better. If you get it, okay, fine, don't email me about what's going on in the woods, that's fine. But email me the recipe they used on you to ensure that you don't speak the truth about this particular topic and more. What's the recipe? Could you share that with us? Could you share with us what the recipe is? What's the threat? What's the worst thing that's going to happen to you to make a bullshit email address somewhere, go to a library or somewhere, use a computer somewhere else and send us some truth? What's the recipe they use to stop you from even doing that? I'm curious. I'd like to know. Wouldn't you? Don't you guys want to know? I want to know. It all ties in. It's all information we need to collect to understand a lot more, right? What's the recipe they're using on your ass? How can they be so intimidating? How? I don't get it yet, probably only because I haven't been directly exposed to any type of threat like that. I've had your basic standard stupid threats that I could take care of myself. Big deal. Right? But I haven't actually had anybody scare me. I haven't had anyone intimidate me or scare me to the point, oh shit, I better shut my mouth. you know? And it's hard to imagine what I can't imagine being intimidated into keeping my mouth shut and being terrified. I just can't picture it myself. Not yet. But I'm really curious about the recipe it is. How do they do it? How do you get a man, especially an A-type kick-ass, strong, independent dude, and women, how do you get them to shut up at all costs, you know? Anyway, babbling. I tend to babble a lot when I've got my mind's racing, right? Because I am non-stop thinking about what I have to do today. So I got to get this out to you guys. What's my next move? I got to pack up enough clean underwear and socks, which sometimes I don't. Sarah likes to point out. She goes, I got to pack your stuff. You never pack the right clothes. Oops. So I got to pack the right clothes, find my fishing license, which I'm sure is here and not on the boat. I got to get all the camera gear rallied up. I got to take the Starlink down and load that into the truck for the dock. Got to get my leaders, all my new gear. I got to get my bait. Got to get my food. I have to fill up 8 jugs full of fuel, because by the time you buy fuel out there, they pinch you an additional 50 to 60 cents a liter more for fuel out there. So I pack my own fuel. Groceries. I'm thinking I might stop at that lake along the way. If timing's right, I might just stop there for a breather and have lunch. I don't know. We'll see if another tree gets smashed in half, or somebody wants to send me some kind of a subtle message. I don't mind subtle messages. Maybe somebody will be standing there looking at me around the corner in that horseshoe bay of the lake. I don't know. Anyways, I might stop there again and record that place and share it with you guys where I had that happen. What was it, a week and a bit ago? Might do that. And then carry on. But either way, I gotta shut my mouth, because I'm a babbling man this morning. Share my story at howtohunt.com. That's the email address. You get your experiences shared word for word, no matter what. And I'm really sending out a huge please to you people that are monitoring my channel, who have been successfully intimidated into keeping your mouths shut at all costs. If you do not have enough concern to share with your fellow human beings knowledge that they can benefit from, then you may not think they can benefit from it, but they can. We can. At least share with us how you have been so successfully intimidated to keeping your mouths shut. Maybe you can send us that, so at least we can start to understand that part. Because I'd like to understand that part more. Okay, babbling's over. I'm out of here. Back later.